Hello and welcome back to another Warhammer the Old World Battle Report. We have round 3 of the tournament I played in with my Royal Clan's Dwarves. I'll put the lists in the description, but basically I have a Longbeard unit with a King, a Battle-Standard Bearer, a big unit of Iron Drakes, and then a Grudge Thrower and a Pony Cart, and the Anvil. And then my opponent is running Empire, a very cool custom 3D printed list. He has, I'll just go across, a unit of Road Wardens with pistols, 10 crossbows with a Warrior Priest of Ulric, who's behind the building there, another 10 crossbows with another Warrior Priest of Ulric, an Lector on War Altar, 30-something Flagellants, then a big unit of 30-something Militia, and I think that there is a... What's all in there? Definitely a Witch Hunter. Definitely a Warrior Priest. A High Priest of Ulric, I think. A Witch Hunter. Yeah. And then there's a Wizard Lord with the Twin-Tailed Wand. And a unit of Archers who scouted up. Yeah, 38 free troops. Free company militia. And this is a Wizard Lord on a Pegasus by the angel demon creature. And that is battle magic. So this scenario was a modified capture and control where you have to hold the center point. There's no feature there. You just have to, the unit closest to the objective holds it, and it was worth 2,000 victory points. I wanted to encourage the last game to be decisive so that there'd be a clear winner. Didn't want people sort of... My thought for the tournament was I didn't want people playing in an avoidance style and running out of time, because we had a bit of a time crunch in the tournament. Rounds were only 2 hours and 20 minutes about because of the hours of the store. So I was hoping that this would speed the game up and make it we'd have a decisive winner. Also, to speed the game up, the deployment was a roll-off, and the winner chose whether to deploy their army first or second, and the person who deployed their army first would then choose who went first or second on the first turn. So, I can't remember who won the roll-off, but I ended up deploying my whole army first, and then I chose to go first. So I think it definitely speeds up deployment. I think it takes deployment from taking about, it can be like 15 minutes for each if you're setting your units and making sure things are in the right place. But this was very quick. Just to put your units down, you can measure that you're within your buffs or buffs. So I think, it seemed largely fair to me. I know there were some concerns that if you're against a very maneuverable army and they deploy second, they can really deploy to counter you. But that's why I was hoping this scenario where you knew that you were coming to the center point, so you can't be too sneaky with your deployment. You know where the battle is going to end up at the end of the day. Okay, so like I said, this was deployment. I went first. And so the Iron Drakes moved up. They got a double move from the Anvil, which put them in range of the Road Wardens, which they shot off. The Longbeards just drilled into marching column and just went forward onto the objective. They did use their Vanguard this game too, so they moved 15 inches up, taking the center objective. He doesn't have anything that can charge me turn 1. The War Altar doesn't have Swift Stride. So I know that I'm fine just being in marching column, and if he does come up and I want to charge him, I can drill out before I declare a charge. And I put the Rune of Oath and Steel on the Iron Drakes because I feel he's going to direct his shooting over here more likely to start off with if he wants to start wearing the Iron Drakes down. My thought was that from this position, the Iron Drakes can cover off the center objective, and then my 2 shooting units can sort of stop my Longbeards from getting flanked while they hold the center. I forgot to move my pony cart this turn, which was a mistake, but I wasn't too worried about it. And what happens is the flagellants push forward. He directs shooting, I think, into the my catapult mainly, and he had the multi-wound 2 go off on one unit of crossbows, so one wound got through and it did 2 damage, so it's down to 1 wound on the catapult. I had directed my fireball at the archers and killed off a few of them, but there's still a few left. The militia moved forward, and then the Pegasus wizard joined them and cast Arcane Urgency on them, I believe, so they've moved again. I think maybe they failed their roll to march the second time. So then my turn 2, the Anvil Wrath and Ruin killed off the remaining archers. He last turn had shot at the pony cart and done 2 wounds to it. So I moved the pony cart behind the hill, try and keep it safe. Iron Drake's move to now come and start supporting the center. And the Longbeards drilled into a combat formation and charged the flagellants and did a bunch of damage to them. I don't think I took any wounds back. I think that I challenged the champion with my BSB just to make sure he didn't have any attacks directed into him, and then I failed to kill the BSB, which was a bit embarrassing. But then Empire turn 2. He finishes shooting off the catapult. So that's too bad. I should have deployed it further back or even just behind the hill. It doesn't. That's just sort of easy points I gave up. The fight's ongoing between the flagellants and the Longbeards. And the militia move, and then he uses the twin-tailed wand to move again. I just recently saw this, I think it was today, that you can't actually cast the same conveyance on a unit in the same turn, so you can't Arcane Urgency twice. Didn't know that was a thing, and my opponent didn't either, and I don't think it really made a big difference in the game, but that is something to keep in mind in the future, I guess. He backed off his War Altar in case I did manage to overrun or wipe out the flagellants and overrun, but I didn't. And yeah, the militia approaching the rear of the Longbeards. And so then, was this Dwarf turn 3? I put directing all my shooting and my runes into the militia unit and starting to wear them down. I removed a rank off the pack. The fight between the Longbeards and flagellants is ongoing. I think he's down to maybe a front rank of 5 or 6 flagellants left. And now it's starting to where this fight is going to take too long, and I'm not going to have time to turn around and get back onto the objective before the game ends. So I'm starting to thinking that I'm going to have to move my Iron Drakes over, and they might have to try and charge into combat with this militia to get them off the objective. But Empire turn 3 then, you can start to see some of the nice paint jobs here. He puts the War Altar into the Longbeards and the militia into the back of the Longbeards. Is that it? Yeah. So we'll go back to this. So I think his Witch Hunt, the High Priest of Ulric, was it? Failed to cast or failed to pray for the damage buff on these guys. And then one of his characters was wearing the armor with Hammerhand, and he failed to cast Hammerhand. Then his wizard used the twin-tailed wand to cast Hammerhand twice as well, and failed to do any damage with Hammerhand. So, yeah, these guys, basically, I think between all of his characters, he kills 3 Longbeards. And then the War Altar charges in rolls a 1 on its number of impact hits, and then he fails to wound or do damage with the War Altar. So a big, I think he set up this combat well. I don't know if, I think it should have been a much closer combat than it was, but his dice let him down. And so instead, the militia fell back in good order away, and then I think the altar and the flagellants both just gave ground and backed up, and then I've followed up on the flagellants and the warlord. I think because they went the same, we figured that the combat would continue between both of them. So then in my turn, because there's no longer a character in the flagellant unit, he couldn't refuse the challenge from the king with the War Altar, and the king killed off the War Altar. We did realize that because the runesmith was in the unit, the whole unit has flaming attacks, and he had the white cloak, so he had a 3-up ward save against my attacks from the king. But I managed to he failed one of his ward saves, and then I managed to roll a 5 for the damage and killed the War Altar that had already taken a couple wounds. I then choose to not follow up on the flagellants, reform to start coming back this way. Oh, they had actually rolled over their leadership and fled. They hadn't just fallen back in good order. So they're running away. But he managed to rally them in his turn. Is that right? Hold on a second. You know what? I think that they charged in again, maybe, and then fled. Or they fled from my shooting. That must have been what happened. I shot with them, and then they fled away from the shooting. And because this unit was the closest, that's what happened. They fled away from them. But then they managed to rally, but they can't make a charge, so they just go and stand on the objective again. He's continuing to put shots into the Ironbreakers, I think, wearing them down a bit. But the Longbeards are getting closer. And is that it? Do I not have another picture? Okay, well, this unit ended up fleeing again and then failing to rally, I guess, on his next turn. Failing to rally. So we called the game there because they were, they ran off this way. So we ended up holding the center at the end, so a big win to us for the Dwarves. So I think my opponent executed this plan well, working the frontal, tying the unit down with the flagellants, and then putting his two hard-hitting units with the militia into the rear and the War Altar in the front, and then his dice just let him down. And I thought my plan worked out well. It was just basically just walk the Longbeards into the center, and they are very good against cheap infantry with their weapon skill 5, and then on the follow-up moves, I'm going, even with hand weapon shield, I'm going to strength 5, AP 1. So they were hitting on 3s, winning on 2s most of the time in these fights. So that's very good for them. It ended up being then that with 2 big wins and 1 close loss, I actually ended up coming second behind the Dark Elf player who won his last game against the Demon player who was also on 2 wins in the final game. So here you can see my opponent's nicely painted free company. So it was a good tournament. I think we managed to finish on time, which I was surprised by. I was feeling quite worried about it before the day started, but it all worked out well. And thanks for watching the Battle Report, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thanks, bye.